Oh, wow. Rest in peace, Forrest Richard Betts, better known as Dickey Betts of the legendary Allman Brothers Band, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, just passed at the age of 80. And he also headed other bands, Dickey Betts and the Great Southern, Betts, Hall, Lavelle, and Trucks. Rest in peace also to the late Butch Trucks, one of the Allman Brothers' two drummers from that original lineup. But Dickey Betts, I was actually just about to put a video out about how he's one of the most underrated guitarists in rock and roll history, especially if you're talking about 60s and 70s classic rock. And one of the reasons why he's gone so under the radar is because Duane Allman, the Allman Brothers Band founder and chief guitarist, is pretty much synonymous with the band, even though Duane Allman died at 24 years old, just 3 years into playing with the band. So get this, you have Duane Allman, who is a renowned session musician. He played at Muscle Shoals on some classic records from Wilson Pickett and Aretha Franklin and several others. So you've got Duane Allman, who starts this band. They were at one point called the Allman Joys. His brother Greg Allman, who plays organ and is the main vocalist. So it's them two. And then they get with Barry Oakley, who's playing the bass, J-Mo, who's playing the drums, Butch Trucks, who's the other drummer. Yeah, they had two different drummers, and Dickey Betts, the other guitarist. So they had two guitars going at the same time. And with all of the reputation and all the accolades, Duane Allman is the guy who created the Layla guitar riff on Derek and the Dominos, his collaboration with Eric Clapton, and that song is pretty historic. So Duane Allman, with good reason, has a huge reputation. Although I felt that Duane Allman, in his own right, was an underrated guitarist, but Dickey Betts was just about as good as Duane Allman. And like I said, when the Allman Brothers came together for their first couple of years, they were pretty much mostly just a live band. And, around that time, anybody who saw them live swears that they are the greatest live band that they ever laid eyes on and heard. It was a legendary stretch. From the band's inception to their, first self-titled album to Idle Wild South. That's the album with Midnight Rider. And then they had the renowned Live at the Fillmore East, or Allman Brothers at the Fillmore East. They finally got a crew to record an album based on their legendary live show. So they were on a legendary live show stretch. And just as they started to build a lot of momentum and started taking to the studio to record their third album, Eat a Peach, Duane Allman tragically dies on a motorcycle. So if you listen to the recordings up until then, you will hear some beautiful guitar from Duane Allman. On those same songs, you'll also hear some beautiful guitar playing from Dickey Betts. They alternated solos. They even alternated kind of dueling guitar on stage, kind of trading licks, like where one of them will go and the other person will kind of respond to that. They had great synergy between Duane Allman and Dickey Betts. So Duane Allman passes away tragically at 24 years old. 1 year later, their bassist, Barry Oakley, dies also at 24, also in a motorcycle accident, and it was like within several hundred yards of where Duane Allman died on his motorcycle. Although Barry Oakley didn't die on the scene, he said he just, that he felt fine and he was okay. He didn't need to go to the hospital. So he goes back to what they call the big house where the band would hang and jam and all that. And then he started becoming very unwell once they got back. And he was there was bleeding on the brain. And the doctor said that they couldn't even have saved him if he did go straight to the hospital. So he dies tragically. So this is a band that's been stricken with a lot of tragedy, a lot of grief. And Barry Oakley, they said, was on a downward spiral ever since Duane Allman died. Like he got heavy into drugs, alcohol, just big depression and grief. So the band was then left to pick up the pieces and to move forward as Duane Allman would have wanted them to do. So you've got the younger brother, Greg Allman. Again, he's on organ. He's the lead songwriter, phenomenal vocalist, by the way. Like some people say that he's one of the better Caucasian blues vocalists that they ever heard. Right up there with like Joe Cocker, for instance. Greg Allman was no joke vocally. Just listen to his vocals on Midnight Rider, on Whipping Post. So the band puts the pieces together. They get back into the studio. They record songs like Ain't Wasting Time No More. That's track 1 from their third album, Eat a Peach. Eat a Peach is my favorite Allman Brothers album. In fact, let me see. So this is Eat a Peach, and it's got fantastic songs on it, like from beginning to end. I even love that like 30-minute mountain jam. But as the band came back together and took to the studio, you basically had Dickey Betts assuming more songwriting duties. So Gregg Allman, again, was writing all their songs. He was the lead vocalist. So Dickey Betts started to songwrite more, but he also started to sing lead in some songs. So like on here, there's a song called Blue Sky, which also features one of the final Duane Allman guitar solos. Beautiful song. Blue Sky. But if you listen to the vocalist, that ain't Gregg Allman. That's Dickey Betts singing lead, and he would start doing more of that as they went forward. Obviously, Gregg Allman would still sing a ton of lead, but you basically had Dickey Betts holding down the guitar. Now he doesn't have his guitar partner, Duane Allman, to kind of riff off and to go back and forth and to songwrite on the guitar that way. So you had Dickey Betts assuming more duties in the wake of the passings of Duane Allman and Barry Oakley. So again, listen to Blue Sky. It's a really nice song. And this album, Eat a Peach, it did pretty well. So after that, the Allman Brothers Band, they renegotiated their contract. They were with Capricorn. That was their label. And then they started working on the follow-up to Eat a Peach, which was Brothers and Sisters. And this album features two classics that were pretty much catalyzed by Dickey Betts. Those songs are Ramblin' Man, that's one of the Allman Brothers' biggest commercial hits, and Dickey Betts is singing lead on that song. So there's Ramblin' Man, and then there's Jessica, one of the greatest kind of guitar rock, southern rock, blues rock, jazz rock, whatever you want to call it, because that's one thing about the Allman Brothers Band. They were always tough to categorize. Yes, they did have a lot of bluesiness in them, but they weren't quite a blues band. They had a lot of jazziness to them, but they were not a jazz band. They were pretty eclectic, and if you listen to them, you could see why it's tough to just pinpoint. They're a southern rock band, obviously. They're from the South. They're from Macon, Georgia, and they were also a little bit revolutionary at the time in the sense that they had a black drummer. This was, again, late 60s going into the 70s. This wasn't normal, and this wasn't a band coming from California like Sly and the Family Stone or one of the other integrated bands. This was a band from Macon, Georgia that had a lot of long hairs, they called them at the time. So if you look at the band, they all had long hair, which, you know, made it really tough for them to bounce around from Waffle House to Waffle House as they were touring the South, because the South didn't look fondly upon people with long hair during that time, and they had a black drummer. So this was a band that was pushing the envelope musically and just in how they existed and how they operated and in their personnel. Again, I love the Allman Brothers Band, but that instrumental, Jessica, is so pleasant to listen to. Like there's not a day where playing that song feels inappropriate. It's so breezy, but it's also virtuosic. If you listen to how the guitar is played, you just want it to go back into that refrain, just that. It's so sensational. I've been practicing that song like on saxophone for a while. By the way, a long time ago, one of my first band tees, if you notice, like in all my videos, I wear like an artist tee. This is a Duane Allman tee. This was one of my first band tees that I got like several years ago. I don't even remember where I got it. It might have been like Urban Outfitters or some mall department store, but it says Summer Jam, Allman Brothers. It's got, the peach on it. But yeah, that song, Jessica, again, a lot of people, if they didn't know any better, they know that this is the Allman Brothers Band, Duane Allman. He's got the name Allman. They might think that that's Duane Allman, the legendary Duane Allman, playing guitar on Jessica. No, that's Dickey Betts playing guitar on Jessica. That was Dickey Betts playing guitar on Ramblin' Man. That was Dickey Betts playing guitar on Ain't Wasting Time No More. And that was Dickey Betts playing guitar on Sweet Melissa. Melissa was also on Eat a Peach. That was one of the songs where it really built their morale, because that was a song that Gregg Allman had been sitting on since like 68 or 69, since before the band started releasing albums, really. It was a song that he had been sitting on, and they took it to the studio, again, after Duane's passing. And that song and its recording kind of solidified to the band like, yeah, you know what? We can still do this. We can move on. We can not only survive as a band, but we could still thrive as a band. And again, that's what Duane would have wanted them to do. So big salute to Dickey Betts. He was such an integral part of that band from like their beginnings to the middles and, their highest commercial period. That Brothers and Sisters album with Ramblin' Man and Jessica, again, Eat a Peach is my favorite album. And if you look at most like greatest classic rock and greatest rock albums, like greatest albums list, The highest album from the Allman Brothers Band that would be on that list would probably be At the Fillmore East, that live album, but their biggest commercial smash was Brothers and Sisters, and that would not have happened without the songwriting, the guitar playing, and the singing of Dickey Betts. So yeah, big hats off to Dickey Betts, man. And again, this is one of the greatest live bands in the history of modern rock and roll. Like, I mean, they were playing like with the Grateful Dead. They were on some of the biggest stages that the Allman Brothers played on were co-headlining with the Grateful Dead, and they had a lot of camaraderie. They had a lot of, I think they shared some like road members and crew members and stuff like that, but they became very fond of each other over time. There's also a really good book on the Allman Brothers Band written by, I think, Alan Paul. In fact, let me check. Boom. Yeah, One Way Out. This is also a song title from the Allman Brothers, an early song title. One Way Out. There was also an early song called Statesboro Blues. That's really good. I always liked In Memory of Elizabeth Reed. And there's also this very great acoustic guitar solo from Dwayne Allman called Little Martha. It's at the end of Eat a Peach. It's only like 2 minutes long, but it's a beautiful acoustic piece. But yeah, rest in peace to Dickey Betts. I mean, I was like, damn, because I mean, J-Mo is the only remaining living member of the original Allman Brothers Band lineup. J-Mo's the last one. Butch Trucks died a few years ago. He committed suicide. I was really sad to hear about that. But yeah, J-Mo is, I've got a friend whose friend is J-Mo's granddaughter. And, you know, and my friend had actually said, you should come out to Georgia and, you know, meet him and interview. I need to take her up on that and see if that's still on the table. I mean, I know he's probably had to answer, you know, a lot of, you know, questions and do a lot of interviews ad nauseum. And I don't know if he would even feel comfortable, you know, talking to somebody, you know, on behalf of the Allman Brothers Band like that. But I'm really thinking about doing that. But yeah, rest in peace to Dickey Betts, passed away at the age of 80. But yeah, if you haven't gotten into the Allman Brothers, please, it's quite a treat. You can start at the beginning with their debut album. If not, you know, start with At the Fillmore East if you want to hear what their live concert sounded like around that time in the beginning of the 70s. Check that out. Again, my favorite album is Eat a Peach. Their biggest commercial success was Brothers and Sisters. And again, the book, One Way Out, trying to get a good shot of the Allman Brothers Band right here. Just one of those bands that was fantastic. They had several great players. I mean, what other band has like two drums or had two drums around that time and two guitarists going on at the same time? That's pretty riveting stuff. And they were masters at improvisation. That's one of the things that made their live shows so rich. So yeah, if you are a fan of the Allman Brothers, let me know what some of your favorite songs from them are, and let me know what your favorite album from them is. I mean, when the Rolling Stone magazine issued like the 100 greatest artists of all time, the Allman Brothers landed at 52. So they landed in that top 100 greatest artists of all time. I love that band. Again, I know they don't get the same notoriety as some other classic bands like the Rolling Stones, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, and so on. But when it comes to some of those jams, I mean, they're one of the greatest to ever come out of the South, period. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on the Allman Brothers Band. Also, check out some of the music of some of their descendants. Like there's the Allman Betts Band, I believe, Dickey Betts' son with, I believe, Greg Allman's son, the Allman Betts Band. Butch Trucks' son is also a pretty well-known alt country southern rock musician. By the way, that's another thing that you could say categorization wise that it was a part of them. Some country, some blues, some jazz, some R&B, and just some straight up rock and roll. They pretty much encompassed it all. But yeah, rest in peace to Dickey Betts.